What if I told you that one of the greatest Islamic scholars in history predicted the spiritual crisis of modern capitalism? 900 years before Wall Street existed? What if the silent anxiety, the endless hustle, the obsession with growth, and the quiet fear of not having enough were not just economic problems, but spiritual ones? And what if a man who lived in the 11th century saw it all coming? This is the silent clash between Al-Ghazali and modern capitalism. Not a clash of swords. Not a clash of ideologies shouted in debates, but a clash of worldviews about money, purpose, and the human soul. And by the end of this video, you may start to see the global economy very differently. Welcome to its financial history too. Let's go back to the 11th century. The Islamic world was at its intellectual peak. Cities like Baghdad were centers of philosophy, theology, science, and commerce. Trade routes stretched from Spain to India. Markets were sophisticated. Wealth flowed. And in this world rose a scholar named Abu Hamid Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Ghazali, known today simply as Al-Ghazali. He was a legal expert, theologian, philosopher, and spiritual reformer. He taught at the prestigious Nizamiya Madrasa in Baghdad. His reputation was unmatched. His income was comfortable, his status was secure. By every worldly measure, he had made it. But then something strange happened. He walked away. Al-Ghazali experienced a profound spiritual crisis. In his own autobiographical work, Deliverance from Error*, he described losing the ability to speak and teach. He feared that his knowledge had become a tool for status and prestige rather than truth. He saw fame creeping into his intentions, cause and effect. Success led to admiration. Admiration led to ego. Ego threatened sincerity. And sincerity, he believed, was the foundation of faith. So he left everything behind, his position, his salary, his influence, and went into isolation for nearly a decade. Why? Because he believed something dangerous was happening beneath the surface of society, and it had to do with money? To understand this clash, we need to understand his economic philosophy. Al-Ghazali was not anti-wealth. He did not preach poverty as an absolute virtue. In fact, he acknowledged that trade, profit, and markets were necessary for society. He understood supply and demand. He discussed fair pricing. He even analyzed market manipulation. But he drew a line. Wealth, he argued, is a tool, not a goal. When money becomes the objective instead of the means, the heart becomes corrupted. He warned about 3 spiritual diseases tied to wealth. First, greed. Second, attachment. Third, fear of loss. And here is where the clash begins. Modern capitalism, especially in its globalized form, is built on perpetual growth. Public companies must increase profits every quarter. Economies must expand GDP every year. Consumption must rise. Production must accelerate. The system rewards accumulation. Now ask yourself, what happens psychologically when a society normalizes endless accumulation? Cause and effect. Growth becomes expectation. Expectation becomes pressure. Pressure becomes anxiety. Anxiety becomes identity. Al-Ghazali would argue that this is where the soul begins to suffocate. Let's move forward in history. After Al-Ghazali, trade in the Muslim world continued. Markets thrived. But over centuries, global economic power shifted westward. The Industrial Revolution transformed production. Capital accumulation became institutionalized. Then came modern financial capitalism, stock exchanges, multinational corporations, complex banking systems, interest-based lending structures. Profit maximization became not just common, but mandatory. And here's the twist. The system works. It has lifted millions out of poverty. It has fueled technological innovation. It has increased life expectancy. It has created global interconnection on a scale Al-Ghazali could not have imagined. But it has also produced something else. Record levels of consumer debt, rising wealth inequality, burnout culture, environmental strain. The question is not whether capitalism produces wealth. The question is what it does to the human being in the process. Al-Ghazali believed that when the pursuit of wealth becomes detached from moral accountability and spiritual awareness, it creates imbalance. He argued that love of the world, when excessive, leads to heedlessness. And heedlessness leads to injustice. Now consider modern corporate scandals, financial crises, predatory lending, environmental exploitation. Are these accidents? Or are they symptoms? Let's examine a breaking point. In 2008, the global financial crisis exposed the fragility of a highly leveraged system. Banks collapsed. Governments intervened. Millions lost homes and jobs. Cause and effect. Cheap credit fueled housing demand. Demand inflated asset prices. Rising prices encouraged risk. Risk was packaged and sold as security. When confidence broke, the system cracked. Al-Ghazali wrote extensively about deception in trade and the moral responsibility of economic actors. He emphasized intention, fairness, and accountability before God. Modern capitalism emphasizes compliance, regulation, and shareholder value. Notice the difference? One system roots accountability in the conscience. The other roots accountability in legal frameworks. And when legal frameworks fail or are manipulated, what remains? This is the silent clash. But here's where it gets deeper. Al-Ghazali did not simply critique wealth. He diagnosed the human heart. He argued that excessive attachment to wealth reshapes perception. It makes temporary things appear permanent. It makes status appear meaningful. It makes competition appear necessary. Sound familiar? Modern advertising industries are built on creating dissatisfaction. Social media platforms amplify comparison. Algorithms reward visibility. Influencer culture monetizes identity, cause and effect. Exposure breeds desire. Desire breeds comparison. Comparison breeds insecurity. Insecurity fuels consumption. And consumption sustains the system. This is not conspiracy. It is structure. Al-Ghazali would say the system externalizes an internal weakness. It monetizes it. Now let's talk about failed fixes. Governments try regulation. Corporations introduce corporate social responsibility. Investors promote ESG metrics. Individuals try minimalism. Yet the growth imperative remains. Why? Because the core assumption is untouched, that success equals expansion. Al-Ghazali would challenge that assumption. He defined success not as accumulation but as purification. Purification of intention, discipline of desire, and alignment with moral purpose. He asked the question that modern economics rarely asks: what is enough? If GDP grows but anxiety rises, is that success? If profits soar but loneliness spreads, is that progress? If convenience increases but meaning declines, what have we built? Now let's connect this to today. Globally, wealth concentration has intensified. A small percentage controls a significant share of assets. At the same time, productivity rises while many workers feel stagnant. Burnout is classified as an occupational phenomenon. Mental health concerns rise even in affluent societies. Cause and effect. When identity fuses with economic output, self-worth fluctuates with performance. Al-Ghazali warned about exactly this, that when the heart attaches to unstable things, it becomes unstable. He described the world as a marketplace, but one where the real transaction is moral. Every action is a trade. Every intention is an investment. Every habit compounds. In modern capitalism, compounding interest builds financial capital. In Al-Ghazali's framework, consistent intention builds spiritual capital. Different metrics, different scoreboard. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The clash is not between a medieval scholar and corporations. The clash is inside us. We live in a system that rewards speed, visibility, and scale. Al-Ghazali calls for reflection, humility, and limits. We chase upgrades. He calls for detachment. We measure net worth. He measures self-awareness. And yet, he was not anti-market. He simply insisted that markets must serve morality, not replace it. So what are the three clear takeaways from this silent clash? First, wealth is neutral, but attachment is not. Money can build hospitals or fuel exploitation. The determining factor is intention and ethical restraint. Second, systems amplify human tendencies. If greed exists, a growth-driven system can magnify it. If integrity exists, that too can scale. The real reform begins within individuals. Third, redefining success changes behavior. If success equals accumulation, we never stop. If success includes balance, purpose, and moral accountability, the economic game itself shifts. Al-Ghazali's warning was subtle but powerful. When the heart worships what the hand should merely hold, imbalance begins. Modern capitalism is not collapsing, but it is straining. And perhaps the question is not whether capitalism is good or bad. Perhaps the deeper question is this: Can a system built on endless growth coexist with a soul that needs contentment? Or will the tension continue to grow? Silently, the clash is not loud. It doesn't trend on social media. But it shapes how we work, spend, compete, and define ourselves. And maybe the real revolution is not overthrowing markets. Maybe it's reclaiming mastery over desire. If this video made you rethink the relationship between faith and finance, between profit and purpose, then don't let the conversation end here. Like the video. Share it with someone who thinks deeply about money and meaning. And subscribe for more explorations into the hidden forces shaping our world. Because sometimes, the most important battles are the quiet ones.